Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs. I'm here as an emissary for the Manitoba Chiefs and all of our people back home who have seen and witnessed the great injustice that has been inflicted upon these peaceful people here in the Mi'kmaq lands, Elsipogtog First Nation. We arrived on Saturday evening to the beat of the drum, and we were welcomed by peaceful people who are still, I think, traumatized from the shock of the violent use of coercive state power against unarmed and peaceful people. We were welcomed. We visited the camp. We were taken to some of the key spots in the camp where a lot of the violence was inflicted upon these unarmed, peaceful people. And we were welcomed in the community in a very peaceful and beautiful way. My initial reaction was that much of the representations that have been made about these peaceful, unarmed people have been inaccurate. The message that seems to be traveling across the country is that there's violence here, but these people do not bring violence. Our experience in these beautiful lands has been nothing but hospitable. We've been treated very well by these people. We've feasted with these people. We've done ceremony, and we've received gifts from the Mi'kmaq people. Any notions of violence or any idea of violence does not come from these people. The great violence that has arrived here has been brought by the use of state, the coercive use of violence by state. And I think every Canadian should be concerned when we look at the use of state power, coercive state power against Indigenous people. How much consideration is being made towards collusion between corporate interests from other parts of the world and the use of state power against our own people? I think every Canadian should be concerned about that, because there are outstanding questions about the legality of what happened. And that will all come in time. The resolution of those matters will come in time. But people were violated, people were humiliated, and people were injured greatly by what has transpired here on the soil of the Mi'kmaq people. It's a great injustice, and Canadians should not stand for the use of that type of injustice against peaceful people. If people are standing to protect the water, they're not just protecting the water for themselves, they're protecting it for future generations of our people, as well as everybody that relies on these waters and the animals and the fish to survive. This is an effort that Indigenous people are making for everybody. It doesn't boil down to simply a matter of what are we doing for ourselves today. This is an effort for everybody. And I think that every Canadian should be proud to see these resilient, strong people and how quickly they're able to move into a healing process so that they can continue to be strong and that they continue to stand for what they believe in, and that is a great love for their children and their future generations who need to live here too. And I've been very humbled by the last couple of days, and very humbled by the people here. So, very much, thank you.
So we'll open up to the panel for a few questions. We're not going to stay there too long because I know we all have busy days and so today. So we'll take a question. Please state where you're from and your name and who you want to direct the question to.
My name is Brent Malzerl. I'm with the Times and Transference. The question for Chief Saw. I apologize for my voice. You talked yesterday and today about the loss of a long-built relationship between the Elsipogtog First Nation and the RCMP. Do you see an ability going forward for the people in your community to separate the local RCMP with the bigger actions of this event?
Yes, most definitely. Actually, our Sergeant Ward and I have been on the phone for the past 3 days now, trying to work out the logistics of the transition. And I know it has been shattered. 20 years of work has been shattered, yes, but we have rebuilt that relationship before, and I'm 100% certain that we can rebuild that relationship again.
Julia from Global News. The decision on the injunction will be made sometime today. If the decision is granted that it will be indefinite and extended, what is the response? What will the response be?
When it is,
If it is granted?
if it is granted for an extension?
Yes.
Well, right now, with the injunction, that's something that we no longer look at. That's over and done with now. You know, an injunction is just a small drop in the bucket as compared to the bigger picture. So whatever comes out at the injunction is whatever it is.
Go ahead. My apologies. I'm Chief Steve from CBC. Yesterday during your ceremony and afterwards, both the Grand Chief and yourself spoke about, and spoke of how peaceful negotiations, peaceful actions are at the root of making this a successful thing. Who now is absolutely in charge of everything to make sure that happens, that there's not a little group that goes off and does something silly like at some point?
Right now, we have regrouped, and I have 3 people in mind right now, but we have yet to sit down and discuss the actual logistics of that as well. I do have a spiritual advisor that I turn to, and he will be a part of that process as well.
Jorge from APTN. So I just want to go back to the surveillance flights that you mentioned. The vehicles were moved overnight. The RCMP says with your help or the council's help.
Actually, yes.
Okay. And I'm just wondering what efforts you're making or how the RCMP is reacting to requests for them to cease their surveillance flights. If you could just talk about both those issues.
Right now, I haven't made any requests to the RCMP to end the surveillance flights, but as for the burnt units themselves, it was just something that I took on my own personally, being a good neighbor to the village of Rexton. So it was just myself and 2 of my closest friends with 3 shovels and a half-ton truck. We coordinated with the local towing company, as well as Sergeant Ward.
Can you tell us more about how that, like what time it happened and how it all unfolded? Like you guys towed each one to the down the road, or the RCMP meet you? How did that all?
We just showed up. I drove there with 2 of my friends and 3 shovels and a half-ton truck. We seen Ken Ellis drive by. We called him up. So, I don't know what you're asking.
No, at what time did it happen?
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
Around that.
Okay.
Chief Derek Nepinak, are there any plans to meet this week with the Premier at all, or to discuss this thing further?
Yeah, there are actually plans to meet with the Premier again, but I haven't really got in touch with them since our last meeting, so you know, times and locations, I guess, is something to be discussed within probably the next few days.
Wap Canoe with Al Jazeera. Amy, you were showing bruises on your arm earlier. Can you describe how you got those and what those are from?
Well, that morning, Thursday morning, I got my boys ready for school, and I looked at my Facebook, and it said something's going on at the site, so I just got ready, and I went to the site not knowing what was going on. But I'm part of, like, I've been liaison with the RCMP, not every day, and, you know, nothing major, but I do have numbers of three RCMP members that I can contact whenever I need. So I went over there, and something told me to bring a white cloth so they wouldn't shoot me. And I brought it as to represent peace. So when I got there, the police had already formed a line. And I asked the police officer many times. I told them my name. I told them my name is Amy Sock. I'm from Big Cove. I don't drink alcohol. I was like trying to, you know, I'm trying to help. I'm gonna try and help my people. I want to go in. Let me in. Please contact so and so, and they didn't want to listen. And I'm sure, you know, it was a tense situation, and who the heck am I anyway? So they didn't listen to me, and one of them, I don't know if it was accident or not, but hit me on my head, and my glasses flew off. So my people behind me started getting mad, and then a scuffle broke out, and then there was a little space for me. So I ran through, and I ran through the first barricade, and I ran as fast as I could, and then I walked and ran and walked and ran. And then my people were telling me to run, Amy, run. So I started running. And I was so happy because once that happened, when I looked on this side, I seen the chief and the counselors running too. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be all right because I seen my brother Aaron, and the chief and the counselors. So I said, okay, I'm gonna keep running. And I don't know. After that, they caught me and I was in the ditch. Or they threw me in the ditch, and then I was up on the ditch, and I just remember parts of it, like my stomach and the ground, like where it was about this much, and they were holding me like up here, and all I could see is my hair on the ground, like just go on the ground, and then they put me on about 4 different police cars. And the first one dropped me off where they barricaded the 2 on-ramps, and there was on top of that highway. They brought me over there, and they took me out of the police cruiser, and they put me on the ground on top of the ramp, because I could see the yellow lines. I was right in the middle. They didn't know what to do with me. So I was on the ground for 5-10 minutes. Then I asked, my heart was beating so fast, I was so scared because I never got beaten up before. My dad is a former RCMP. And I was scared, and I kept telling them, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. But finally, they took me to the hospital. I was under arrest, and they took me to the Shediac cell. And at the Shediac cell, I couldn't breathe. Got into a confrontation in the cell with another female, but I think that was totally all my fault. And I'm sorry. But anyway, that's what happened. And then I was transported to the Mountain City Hospital, where I was under arrest until 9:15 that night. My family, my husband, my mom and dad couldn't get a hold of me. I couldn't reach anybody. The police officers were standing outside my hospital room till 9. So I couldn't call my husband or my mom or dad to come be with me. So basically for about 12 hours, I was in police custody. And that's what happened that morning.
Any more final questions?
Michelle, do you know when you see the situation did you have, or do you have any discussions with school resources?
No, I haven't.
Nothing else since September?
Not since, I forget when. No, not in long.
Did you try to get in touch with them?
No, I don't think this is no longer between Elsipogtog and Swing. This is between Elsipogtog and the province. And the issuances of or actually how it came to be. That's where our battle now lies.
And how
Or
did you,
I don't need to say battle, but the disagreement.
and how would you describe your relationship with, the discussions you have with David Albert? How would you describe it?
Mr. Premier, he's actually a great guy and easy to talk to and accessible. But you know, when you have 2 opposing ideas, you just butt heads, I mean, it's still easy to maintain that communication, but right now we just don't see eye to eye.
Chief Stock, Jen Shores, CBC. What is it that you're not seeing eye to eye on right now? What is it that you're
It's simple. It's simple, and I appreciate that question. Our community doesn't want shale gas exploration because it would only lead to I don't know how you call it, when they actually extract it from the ground. So that's where it's at. I mean, it's quite simple. So the province seems to think that that is the moneymaker now, and we don't want to be the ones to, you know, at the end of the day, 50 years, 60 years down the road, which is the average lifespan of a shale gas well, we'll be stuck here with thousands of wells or whatever it is. And at the end of the day, the province and the rest of New Brunswick would have made their money, and we're stuck with the refuse, the garbage. So that's where we will see eye to eye.
So what's next in this process? There are people still out on the highway. You're obviously wanting to meet with the province. Describe what's happening next.
What's happening next? Well, the logistics of it is still being worked out, and our team has mobilized. We are in constant discussions, but right now I'm not, at this point I can't really speak to it as to the details anyway.
Julia again from Global News. We've heard repeatedly, the last couple of days that you guys are calling for calm, but we have had flare-ups also within those last few days. So what are you doing personally to make sure that things actually do stay calm, that we won't see anything that we've seen in the past few days?
We're establishing better communications. Most of those flare-ups, if you will, they're just due to I guess the lack of communication. And it's no different with the RCMP. When we're on the ground, if you have a line of RCMP here, a line of RCMP there, they're only 50 feet apart, yet these guys don't know what these guys are doing. So I mean, it happens everywhere. Miscommunication, and the communication's not always that great, but it is what it is.
So you're blaming it on lack of communication?
Yep, on all sides. Not only amongst ourselves and amongst the RCMP, but between the RCMP and our community.
I will have a question for Gretchen. How long do you plan on staying here?
At the conclusion of the press conference here, I'm going to be sitting down with Chief Sock, and we're going to discuss what my role is here. I believe that the task that I was sent to perform has been completed, and the next step in my process has to be discussed. I have responsibilities back home as well that I need to attend to, so we'll determine that probably in the next couple of hours.
Any final questions? Is there any final statement, Chief?
Sure. Thank everyone we've heard from across Turtle Island who've sent their love and support through word of mouth and social media. We are peaceful people, and what we want is to protect the water for all of us. I encourage everyone who cares about the land to keep making your voices heard in a safe, loving, and yet loud voice, if need be. To stand up for what we believe in. And one more thing, I really thank the Chiefs of New Brunswick for standing up and saying that they will no longer accept what has happened to Elsipogtog and our community members, and that they now oppose shale gas, and they ask for the suspension of exploration. Thank you. Gladio.
Thank you, everybody.